In our money lead, the Justice Department has joined the investigation into the meltdown that forced Southwest Airlines to cancel nearly 17,000 flights around Christmas and New Year's. You probably remember that. The Department of Transportation already opened its own investigation. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg joins us now to bring us up to speed on what's going on. Secretary, thank you for joining us. So what is your understanding about why the Justice Department is joining your investigation now?
Well, they're joining this process at a time when we really have two lines of effort going on. One of them has to do with making sure passengers are fully taken care of. We got a lot of enforceable commitments from Southwest last year about how they would treat passengers in this scenario. Now we're using our enforcement powers to make sure that people got those refunds, got those reimbursements, ground transportation, everything they're entitled to under that customer service plan that we had negotiated prior to that meltdown. The second piece that we're working on has to do with realistic schedules. We need to make sure that airlines are prepared to service the tickets that they sell, and unrealistic scheduling can be a real threat to the operations of an airline. So both of these are parts of ongoing work that we're doing. And, you know, whether it's Southwest Airline or any airline, we always stand prepared to make sure that passengers get the support that they need when these situations happen.
So can you give us a status update? I know these investigations are ongoing, but have all the passengers impacted? Have they been reimbursed or received a voucher? And do you believe there was unrealistic scheduling done by Southwest?
So I'm not prepared to release a finding right now. What I will say is that we have gathered a huge amount of data. We've gone through a lot of complaints. We have seen large numbers of passengers that got those reimbursements, got those refunds, but we're not going to rest until we understand all of the different complaints that have come in and can be sure that everybody was taken care of properly.
I want to talk about flight safety. That's on a lot of people's minds after they're seeing this video, that scary new video of flames coming out of an airline engine after a possible bird strike. The plane landed safely, but the FAA's database shows more than 1,700 bird strikes this year. How concerned are you about this, and what is the solution here?
That's right. This is an ongoing safety concern. Now, I want to emphasize air travel in America is exceptionally safe. It's actually the safest form of transportation. But in order to keep it that way, we are always looking at new developments and trying to make sure that there is even more safety built into the system. Now, what happened in the case of this flight that, no one wants to look out the window and see what these passengers saw. The flight crew, of course, returned that plane safely to the ground, and everybody was taken care of there. But what we're interested in addition to making sure there are those safety systems that allow an airplane to safely land with one engine operational where necessary, is to try to prevent these bird strikes from happening in the first place. FAA, believe it or not, does a lot of research on birds and on wildlife for precisely this reason. It might sound like a pretty quirky area of research until you realize that there is life safety on the line to make sure we have fewer of these incidents. And, everything from bird habitats and bird behavior changing to the evolution of engines that are more efficient and therefore quieter means that we might need to undertake new specifications, new safety measures to try to minimize those bird strikes that are a real concern for airliner safety.
Yeah, it was so interesting reading about it today that there's increasing populations of large birds and also their inability to hear the quieter engines on these planes. So just really interesting to learn about that. I want to talk to you also as we look ahead. A lot of people are planning their summer travel, myself included. But that comes against this backdrop of this airline industry warning about, airline industry group, we should say, warning about a coming tsunami of pilot retirements. There's already a shortage of air traffic controllers. You have this key New York facility affecting flights into JFK, LaGuardia, New York, that has been operating at about half its projected staffing level. How messy will summer travel be as a result of all of this?
Well, we're acting to make sure that airlines are accountable for serving passengers well. We've seen so far improvement this year compared to last year, but certainly not resting easy as we look at the numbers week by week and day by day. On the air traffic control side, I'll say that we are doing a ton of hiring right now to make sure that we get more qualified air traffic controllers as the demand increases and as some controllers retire. But I'll tell you, this is also one reason I'm very concerned about some of the extreme proposals that we've seen coming from members of the House GOP. When they talk about cutting anything that is non-defense discretionary spending, I'm not sure Americans all realize that one of the things they're talking about cutting is our ability to grow the air traffic control workforce. Their budget proposal would actually mean shutting down air traffic control towers. This is the exact wrong time to be doing that. And so whether it's the proposal from the extreme House Republicans to cut the air traffic control funds, or the effect that would have on railroad safety at a time when we're all rightly paying more attention to that. And I think this is the wrong time to be cutting railroad inspections. I don't think there was ever a good time to be cutting a railroad inspection, but definitely not now. These are exactly the things that are at stake in what can sometimes seem like a very technical process of negotiating that budget. Our budget proposal is one that will prepare us for things like the ability to maintain our aviation system in good working order.
Yeah, it was interesting. I saw you and Colorado Republican Congressman Lauren Boebert exchanging tweets recently. She had talked about the rail accidents, pointing the finger at you, and you said that essentially that the Republicans' plan will mean that fewer track inspections annually, fewer safety inspection days for rail. So it makes you wonder, if the Republicans' plan passes, will it be safe to use trains? Will it be safe to fly?
Well, this is exactly why I think we have to call anybody who wants to make political hay out of transportation issues to the carpet and say, are you serious or not? As you mentioned, Representative Boebert, who's a leader in the Freedom Caucus, was talking about derailments without in any way acknowledging that Freedom Caucus budget proposal would cut inspection days, which would mean less resources going to preventing derailments and railroad accidents. We have to make sure that everyone who's out there trying to politicize safety issues is accountable for what their proposals would actually do. And if you're one of these extreme House Republicans proposing a budget that would cut not just research into things like aviation safety, but actually cut our ability to hire air traffic controllers and to inspect railroads and make sure that they're safe, then you have to be accountable for that position.
And of course, as you well know, Republicans there's got to be some spending cuts somewhere, but you were saying where they're looking for the spending cuts, especially in your world, that could be a real issue for traveling. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, thank you so much. Up next, to the White House.